Hello, and today we're looking at the carbon cycle. So to start with, what is the carbon cycle? What does it form part of? So the carbon cycle forms part of biogeochemical cycles. And biogeochemical cycles have physical processes, and they also have biological processes. And these help cycle uh, relatively small amounts through the environment and an ecosystem, and by recycling these materials and elements as part of more complex compounds or relatively simple compounds, this can support life long term. And this means that the majority of these elements are often locked away in reservoirs, which are the stores. Reservoirs over long periods of time, and they're inaccessible. So only small amounts are needed, and they're continuously cycled, and this keeps everything going in an ecosystem. The other thing to remember is in natural systems, they have developed to be in dynamic equilibrium. With just one L, not the two. Sorry, always do that. And this means that the amount in each reservoir remains the same over long time periods. And this is in natural systems. The issue is when humans become involved, we result in some reservoirs going down or being depleted. Perhaps other reservoirs increase, and this kind of upset natural processes. So let's have a look at the carbon cycle to start with. So we have here a carbon cycle diagram. I have drawn in the main sort of reservoirs, and I'm going to draw arrows between them and talk about some of the processes and perhaps some of the forms in which they are as well. So we've got to start with carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and that's our first form of carbon that we're looking at. It's not carbon by itself, it's a compound with oxygen. And we can see that it sometimes dissolves into the ocean, and sometimes it comes out a solution from the ocean into the atmosphere. So there's two processes there that we can look at. All right. And the amount in the atmosphere is 700 billion tons of carbon dioxide or carbon, and there is 500 billion tons, sorry, in the ocean, in the surface layers. Okay, so just at the top of the ocean. Remember, the ocean is very deep in places. And it's in these two forms here, carbon dioxide and hydrogen carbonate ions as well. So if we look at the sort of more terrestrial atmospheric processes we're familiar with, we have the process of photosynthesis, which converts that CO2 into carbon in plants, and that's in the form of things like carbohydrates, lipids, and proteins. Okay, so there are different forms, and we find that this is also respired back into the atmosphere from both plants and from animals. And the animals will eat our primary producers, our plants, making our animals our consumers, and they have the same forms of carbon in them as well. So carbohydrates, lipids, and proteins. And these are quite big stores. So we have 450 billion tons in plants. And then we have death, where plants and animals die and are converted into dead organic matter in the soil, which is our form as well. And that makes up 700 billion tons. From the dead organic matter in the soil, we might have a respiration taking place from soil organisms. And we might also have anaerobic respiration, which results in a different form of carbon, methane, which can then be oxidized in the atmosphere into CO2. And from the dead organic matter in the soil, it can then become fossilized. And go through the process of sedimentation. And become either a fossil fuel or carbonate rocks. So as a fossil fuel, that is 10,000 billion tons of carbon, and carbonate rocks make up 20 million billion tons of carbon. Okay, so that's the sort of familiar terrestrial processes that we've covered there. In the oceans, we have photosynthesis still. And that carbon is taken into plankton, which makes up 5 billion tons. And then it is either respired by the plankton itself or the animals that eat it. And there we go, eaten. And that would make another 5 billion tons. You then have death into dead organic matter. 3,000 billion tons. And you can have decay. And it's dissolved into the deep oceans. And that makes up 35,000 billion tons of carbon. You can have that. Oh, that's the wrong color. You can have that carried by currents back into the surface layers, and that dead organic matter can also contribute to fossilization and sedimentation and become